Lohas, 8 rational expressions. We're going to multiply, divide rational expressions. What's a rational expression? Well, it's got this word ratio in it, and ratio is a fraction. So it's some crazy fun fractions where we get to factor like crazy and spling, 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 cross a whole bunch of stuff out. All right. So if anything, it's a ton of fun. Let's get after it. Remember to go to my website, get those notes out, all right, so that you can take some good notes. And you can either print those out or you can just write these out in your notes. All right, let's go. Let's get it. Here's a rational expression. Remember, I said it was a fraction. A ratio is a fraction. And this is a fraction that has polynomials. We got a polynomial up and down stairs. Now, if you look at this bad boy, I don't know about you, but when I look at it, boy, does it scream, let's factor. All right, so let's go ahead and look at that top. If I look at that top, right, it's going to be side work, where I do my little spling, spling, my little x, and I multiply the first guy by the last guy, and then my middle guy is 7, and then what multiplies to get 10? But adds to get 7. Well, that's a 5 and a 2, right? Totally. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 plus 2 is 7. Now remember, when there's a 1 out here in front of a quadratic, I can do it the super duper fast way. So the top is going to be equal to x plus 5, x plus 2. We all kind of okay? All right, and that'd be the top. Now I also have to do a little side work and factor the polynomial on the bottom. Spling, spling. 1 times negative, that this time it's negative 10, and in the middle I have a negative 3. Guess what? A 5 and a 2 work again. 5 times 2 is positive 10 though. So maybe I put a negative there. Maybe 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. But when I combine these two guys, I get a positive 3. So if you get a positive 3, but we want a negative 3, guess what? All I got to do is flippity floppity. And they still multiply to get negative 10, and they combine or add to get a negative 3. So that means I get an x minus 5 and an x plus 2. Snap! X plus 2 in the top and bottom, separated by a multiplication sign. Spling, spling. What am I left with? X plus 5. Since there's only one thing left upstairs, I don't need the parentheses around it. X minus 5. Sweet! That's it. Remember, we did a whole bunch of factoring in the first semester. So hopefully this is a lot of review for a lot of us, right? Not bad if you ask me. Now, can it get a little bit tougher, a little bit more confusing? For sure it can. All right, here's our next one. You know what I challenge you to do right now? Hit that pause button and let's see how you do on your own. Okay, hit that pause. Write this down, hit that pause. Let's see if we get the same answer. All right. Hopefully you tried that little pause. I got a 1 in front, so it means I can do it the fast way. 1 times negative 8 is negative 8, 2 on the bottom. A 4 and a 2 gives me 8, right? One of them has to be negative. It's got to be that guy. They multiply to get negative 8. They add to get positive 2. So I put my equal sign to show transition. And then there we go. Factor it super duper fast way, because whenever there's a 1 out in front, sweet, sweet, we can do it the fast way. All right, let's do this guy here. 1 times 6 is 6. And ooh, snap, I get a negative 5 on the bottom. Well, most students are going to think, 6 times 5? 2 times 3? Which one works? Believe it or not, it's going to be a 2 and a 3. They multiply to get 6, but they add to get positive 5. So what if I made them both negative? Yes, yes. They multiply to get positive 6. They combine to get negative 5. So then here I go with x minus 2, x minus 3. Is there multiplication between all this stuff? It is. So it doesn't matter if they're crisscross applesauce. Spling, spling. And since there's only one thing on top, one factor on top, and one factor on the bottom, there you go. Dunzo. Now you guys probably at home are saying, Mr. T, come on, man. We did all of this first semester. You're right. We did. And we're just adding it because we're doing more factoring and we're crossing some stuff out. Why? Because we have rational expressions. a ratio of two polynomials. Now, some of these are going to look a little bit tougher, so let's look at it. Some of them are a little bit different. So you know what I'm going to do is I am going to do the ones that I think look the toughest. The three that look the toughest by far will go 8, different, 11, different, tough, 13, different, tough. All right, here we go. So let's go. Number 8, negative 5x to the third y over 15x y to the third. Believe it or not, there's no addition, there's no subtraction signs, so we just got to simplify, right? A 5 and a 15. Well, I can divide a 5 and a 15 both by 5. So you got your negative on the outside. That dude's going to stay there. But 5 over 15 is 1/3, right? 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then look, I have 3 x's there. So it's like I have 3 x's upstairs. I got 1 downstairs. Schling, schling. I'm left with 2 x's upstairs. And then what about the y's? I got 1 upstairs. I got 3 downstairs. Spling, spling. I got 2 y's downstairs. That's all you got to do for something like that. Don't have to go off to the side and factor, right? We didn't have any quadratics, right? So that's just sling, 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 sling. You cross out like terms. That's all you got to do in that case. Okay, guys? That one was a little bit different, so I thought it'd be important to do it. The next one that looks different is 11. Now, how does 11 look different? Well, 49 minus z squared. Not because it has a z. Okay, z plus 7. Now, if I look at the bottom, I can't factor that. If I look at the top, now you kind of have to remember that that is a difference of two things that are being squared, right? 49 is 7 squared. Z squared is z squared. Now, I'm not sure if we remember. Hopefully we do. But this is a difference of two squares. When I have a difference of two squares, remember it factors to two things. The first thing is a 7 times a 7, which gave me the 49. The second thing, which comes second this time, is the variable, which is a 7 and a 7. And then remember, when we did these in the first semester, there's got to be a minus in one and a plus in the other. It doesn't matter which one goes where. And then I get a z plus a 7 down. Now, is this the same exact thing as this? And believe it or not, it is. The 7 is positive, the z is positive. So they're really the same thing. Addition is commutative, which means I could flip those guys and then spling, spling. And then I'm left with just one factor, and that was the factor on top. Okay, there you go. I don't know, it's different. It's different. So you're going to want to make sure you practice those guys in Math Excel, okay? One last guy to go. It's number 13 on this page. And why does this guy look different? Because it's kind of written backwards, right? We have quadratics, but it's kind of written backwards. So whenever you have quadratics, you do not want them to be written backwards. So I'm going to rewrite it like that, right? Negative x squared minus x plus 12. All of those signs are correct. Okay, now the thing is you can only factor an x squared if it's positive. So my next step in this one, even before I do any work, is I got to take a negative out of everything on the top. I have to. Because the only way I'm allowed to factor something with my side work is I've got to have that x squared being positive. And guess what? It's a positive 1 right there. So I'm going to come over here and do some side work. I can do it the fast way because it's a 1, a positive 1 right there, right? The negative's just going to stay out there. So 1 times negative 12 is negative 12 crisscross and a 1 there. Now I'm really good. You're getting really good. So you probably know that has to be a 4 and a negative 3. They multiply to get negative 12 and they combine to get 1. So I can do that the super duper fast way. That negative outside there just stays. And you end up with x plus 4, x minus 3. And then in the bottom, well, we got a factor, which is some side work. So I can give you guys so much points for this stuff. So 1 times 15 is 15 and a negative 8. That'd be a 5 and a 3, but they both have to be negative because two negatives multiply and give you a positive, but when you combine them, give you a negative 8. So we end up with x minus 5, x minus 3, spling, spling. And so on the top, I'm left with a negative, and I do have to keep the parentheses unless I want to distribute that negative. On the bottom, I can get rid of it because there is no negative. So that is the answer, or you actually could distribute the negative and write it like that. The ACT, SAT could do one or the other, so I thought I'd show you both of them. Okay, you guys? All right, let's keep going. I know there's other instances that could come up, and I don't want you guys to be confused with any of your math Excel. All right, so let's take a look at it. Okay, this guy's a little bit different. I wrote it real big, so it must be important. All right, now hopefully you guys look at that bottom and you're like, oh, that's just x squared minus 3 squared, right? That's a difference of squares. So if I look at that bottom, it's just going to be 2 parentheses. You got your x times your tree times your tree, but remember, they got to be different signs. Where this one's a little bit tougher is the top. Okay, why? Just because, once again, it's different. But hopefully you look at those two, and you don't have an x squared. So it can't be like a difference of squared of anything. But we've got to remember first semester. What's one of the most important things we do, or we're supposed to do, even before we factor? And shame on Mr. T. First time I'm saying it because it's the first time it's coming up. But you always have to factor out any GCFs, greatest common factors. And if you look at that 12 and that 4, oh snap, they both have a 4 in it. So I got to factor out the 4. Remember, factoring is division. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 4x divided by 4 is just an x. So I end up with a 4 and a 3 minus x. Now, red flag, red flag, red flag. That says x minus 3. That says 3. Are they the same exact thing? No, they're not the same exact thing. The wrong things are negative. So guess what? I can actually kind of fix that. On the top, whoops, on the top, I'm going to bring a negative out of both of those guys. So I'm going to factor out a negative. And if I factor out a negative, it's going to turn that 3 to a negative 3. It's going to turn that x to a positive x. And I just changed the order that I wrote it in. And then look what happens, class. Look what happens. Now I get the same exact thing, spling, spling, and I get a final answer of a negative 4 on a top and an x plus 3 on the bottom. So that was a little trick. You can only cross two things out if they have multiplication around them and they're the same exact thing. If the signs are just different, stick a negative out and you can write them as if they're the same exact thing. So a little bit of a trick there. That's why it was written like a big bad problemo. All right, here we go. Let's keep rolling, class. All right, boom. Now we're going to multiply these guys. And we might even divide these guys. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. So guess what? I'm going to give you 2 more examples because this video is getting kind of long. We're going to do this one, and then we're going to do a dividing one. And then you got to make sure you're working hard at home. Okay? So how do I do a multiplication problem? Well, the way I do a multiplication problem is I first factor everything. Factor everything, right? And it's like I have 4 mini problems. There's mini problem number 1. They both have a 2 in it. They both have a 2. So I'm going to take out a 2. Factoring is like division. 2x divided by 2 is x. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Boom. I'm going to go straight to the bottom. Oh, that's x squared minus 4 squared. That's a difference of squares. Remember, anytime you have a difference of squares, you're x minus 4, x plus 4 times, oh snap, side work, 2 times, but I can do it the super duper fast way. 1 times 4. 4, 5 there. That's 2 times 2? No. 4 times 1, right? Super duper fast means x plus 4, x minus 1, x minus 1. That's a plus 1. Let's do this guy, right? Spling, spling. I can do it the fast way because there's a 1. 1 times 16 and an 8. Well, whew, a lot of ways to get 16. 1 and 16, nope. 8 and 2, nope. 4 and 4, right? Multiply to get 16, add together to get 8. So we got x plus 4, x plus 4. And then wait a second. That's a multiplication sign. So that means I can make it a super duper long. You can combine things. And then you can just spling, splings. Spling, spling. Multiplications between everything. Spling, spling. Is that it? That's it. So what am I left with on top? A 2 and a x plus 1. What am I left with on bottom? X plus 4, x plus 4. Nothing else crosses out. Dunzo! One more to go. One more to go. Stay with me. Stay focused because the last one is the trickiest one, right? We're multiplying these guys, which just means you got to factor like crazy. Factor like crazy. I'm going to leave it right here real quick. Maybe you'll pause and try a couple of those bad boys. You just got to factor and spling, spling. Okay? We'll practice more in class. Don't worry about it. All right, last one of the day. Let's divide these bad boys. Do I have another page of some tough ones? There we go. Let's see which one I want to do. Yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this one. A little bit tougher. Let's do it. All right, so go ahead and copy it down. Now, there's something very important when it's division and not multiplication. Well, you don't even do the problem if it's division. You rewrite it. And when you rewrite it, you've got to do this very important. We never, ever, ever want to divide by a fraction. Instead, we multiply by the reciprocal. By the reciprocal. Okay? So the reciprocal is you just flip them, flippity floppity, and it lets me put a multiplication symbol there, which in the next step is going to let me just do that, and then I can just swing, 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 cross out any like factors in the numerator and denominator. All right, let's factor. This guy here, side one, super duper fast because there's a 1. 1 times 4 is 4, a 5, that's a 4 and a 1. I'll go fast here because you guys are probably chilling and dominating these bad boys right now. So 1 there. 1 times negative 12. 1 on the bottom. So 4 and a 3. The negative's got to be on the 3 because when you combine them, you got to get 1, multiply them, get a negative. So on that, I'm going to make a long fraction mark because remember, that's a multiplication symbol now. And I'm allowed to do that if it's a multiplication symbol. Okay, these two guys are a little bit different. This guy here, I do not do the little x, right? It's not a quadratic. It's missing the third guy this time. But remember, I said last problem, we always got to do GCFs. And these two guys both have a 2 and an x. And remember, I can put all the guys on top next to each other because of that multiplication symbol. That's why it was so important to change that, dude, and reciprocal and flip it, okay? So then if I do that, remember, factoring out is like division. 2x squared divided by x is x. Negative 6x divided by 2x is negative 3. And then on the bottom, x squared minus 1, that is x squared minus 1 squared. That's a difference of squares, which means 2 parentheses, an x and an x, a 1 and a 1. Remember, one of them has to be a minus and one of them has to be a plus. And since we changed that division and multiplication and could write it like that, we can cross stuff out. Spling, 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 spling. Oh my gosh, I am only left with a 2x on top, and I am only left with an x minus 1 on the bottom. Some of you at home are going to say, hey, can I cross out that x on the top with the x on the bottom? And no! Why? Because the x on the bottom has a minus sign next to it. You can only cross them out if they're surrounded by multiplication symbols. Okay? But that was a really good question. If you thought to ask it, I'm going to erase this so you guys can see the very, very last page, right? Because you got to be able to see the last page in order to do some practice problems. And for some reason, my mouse isn't working right now, but that's because my pen was up there, okay? So we're going to erase all this stuff. If I were you guys, if you didn't print out the notes, hit a little pause as I go to this next one and practice. Or you know what? Go to your Math Excel and make sure you do Math Excel. It's very helpful and important to do those Math Excels because the Math Excels allow you to just keep on doing the problems till you get them right. Aloha, great work, keep on working hard.